Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. May peace be upon you. This is Edward Ahmed Mitchell, the Deputy Director of the Council on American Islamic Relations, welcoming you to today's episode of Care on Air, the Muslim Action Hour. I hope all of you had a nice holiday weekend and that you're staying safe and doing well. I'm very happy to welcome onto the program today my co-host, Brother Faizan Syed of Care Dallas, formerly of Care Missouri. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Faizan. How are you?
Welcome. Salam, Edward. Alhamdulillah, I'm doing great. I'm very happy to be on the show and to be a co-host with you today.
Yes, very happy to have you. I'm hoping that you can not only bring your expertise as a two-time executive director of two different chapters, but also your sense of humor. I don't know, many people know this, but you were, my understanding, a comedian in another aspect of your life. You're a very talented humorist, mashallah. And so I always love to see you smile and to benefit from your sense of humor, especially in difficult circumstances. Just before we start, how are you doing? How are things in Dallas?
I'm doing quite well. Things in Dallas are going rather smoothly. You know, I became the director here almost a year ago. And since that time, we've really seen a dramatic increase in the type of cases that we get and sort of the civil rights complaint. Texas is definitely very unique compared to Missouri, which I was beforehand. So I think our challenges are still there, but also there's a lot of opportunity because it's a large community here and a lot of opportunity to build and empower that community as well.
Alhamdulillah, wonderful. May Allah grant you success. They've got the right man for the job. So before we begin today's program, which is going to be split into two parts, we want to just give you a brief outline. So inshallah, first we're going to discuss an issue that's arisen in the past few days in the state of Pennsylvania. Anti-Muslim assault that occurred, caught on video. The police did not take it seriously, and now Care Philadelphia, Care Pittsburgh are working on this case. We're going to talk about that issue first. And then, inshallah, we're going to be talking about the anniversary of 9/11, which, as you all know, is tomorrow. And on the 9/11 anniversary, obviously, many Americans will attend or observe memorial services, and many students will learn about 9/11, perhaps for the first time in their school setting. So we want to talk about some of the issues that arise in school settings when inappropriate teachings or inappropriate sources are used to discuss 9/11 with young students, and what we can do to make sure that bigotry and bias are not spreading in our school system every time we reach the anniversary of 9/11. So those are the two topics for today, inshallah, and we'll begin with the issue in Care, with Care Pennsylvania. So let's begin by inviting on our first guest, and I'll give Brother Faizan the honors of bringing on our esteemed guest and introducing him.
Thank you for that. So our guest today is Jacob Bender. He is the executive director of the chapter in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, and he'll be talking about the most recent incident that happened that we're going to show a video of in a moment. Jacob, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. First of all, I'm the executive director in Philadelphia. Christine Mohammed is the executive director in Pittsburgh.
Oh, my mistake.
All of us
from trying to give you more power, Jacob. It's okay.
Right. Me being a new Pennsylvanian, I needed to learn what why they kept calling the state Commonwealth.
Yes.
So, but one story I heard from when I moved to Pennsylvania was that the definition of Pennsylvania was Pittsburgh in the west, Philadelphia in the east, and Mississippi in between. So that gives us an intro into this video, which was filmed by a Muslim brother in King of Prussia. And the video sort of speaks for itself. I can talk over it, but it would be helpful just to run the video, I think.
Yeah, let's play the video by itself, and then we'll talk about it afterwards, get more detail, and find out what's happening now, inshallah. Let's go ahead and play the video. And we'll warn everyone this has some crude language in it, so just be aware.
Oh, I think we might be having some technical difficulty. We can't hear the audio.
Well, which solves the crude language issue on the bright side.
I guess so.
but we do want people to be able to hear what's being said. So while they work to fix that, I'll just summarize briefly. There was a unidentified white male. Well, I think the police know who he is. White male suspect at an apartment complex with a dog. The dog, I believe, attacked or attempted to attack a Muslim in the area, a Muslim man. And then the man himself, instead of apologizing or addressing the issue, began verbally assaulting this Muslim individual, told him to go back to his country, threatened to attack him, got very close to him, physically assaulted him. Obviously,
and eventually did push him.
And did push him, yes. I think that's caught on video.
That was made.
Yeah. All right. Looks like we got the video key back up again. Let's give it one more try.
Louder.
No.
He's all, yeah.
Why?
Fuck out of here.
What are you talking about?
He's not gonna bite you. You're fucking hammer on the face. Get
Why?
the fuck out of here.
No, I'm not
Get
going
back to your
anywhere.
country, you fuck.
I'm not going anywhere.
You
You better put him on leash.
Fuck you in your fucking country, you fucking dothead.
All
I'm knocking the fuck out. Come here, you wanna get knocked out?
Huh?
You get knocked out? Huh? I will knock you the fuck out, buddy. Just walk.
I'm not going anywhere.
I know.
No.
He's all bark. He's all bark.
No.
Get the fuck out of my face. Get the fuck out of my face.
I'm not going anywhere.
Keep fucking.
Hey,
Keep walking.
what the hell?
Walk. Fuck out of my face.
So, Jacob, that's just a snippet of the interaction these two men had. Any more detail you can provide to us, and what's happening now?
As far as I know, that actually is the entire clip.
Okay.
That was first seen on YouTube. So a press release went out last night from National and from Pittsburgh, and we followed up from Philadelphia this morning. We're still waiting for the press to respond. I know that the Muslim brother met with police who did not take it seriously at all and told him to forget the whole issue. So that brings up, of course, the question of police impartiality. Why did they not consider a physical assault against a Muslim as a crime or a potential hate crime? It also brings to mind the Central Park incident where a white lady said that she would be calling the police about a African-American man who there was a disagreement there. And our press release quite clearly identified this issue, this incident, as coming not out of the blue, but being a result of months and months of prejudicial statements and racist statements by this administration. So that these hate crimes, these incidents are a result of directed policies of our government. And it's to really address these issues, we have to explore the background, the historical background of hate crimes within the United States and what role they played in terrorizing local population. Jim Crow laws, the lynchings of tens of thousands of African-American men without a single prosecution. This is the essence of these hate crimes and attacks.
And the lack of a law enforcement response. We often talk about the law enforcement overreaction in incidents involving people of color, but when we talk about Muslims, we often have to talk about the underreaction to incidents involving Muslim victims. So, Jacob, we're glad that you all are on this and bringing attention to this. We hope the police will respond by taking this seriously, not just for the sake of punishing anyone, but for making sure that this individual and people like him do not get away with this behavior and think they can continue to just harass and target, attack people who happen to be, look, or worship differently than them. So, Jacob,
interesting. I thought I detected a Eastern European Slavic accent in the Anglo white man, which is interesting because a lot of ethnic white Europeans came to this country and adopted the white supremacist narrative that they found themselves in. And it made them feel, I think, superior, that they could look down on someone. And of course, that antagonism was manipulated and used by factory owners and the government to keep the working class separate and not united, to be able to form a united front.
Jacob, you always go deep for us. You always take it, unpeel the onion for us, which we appreciate as always, my brother. All right, so thank you so much, Jacob. We're gonna leave you to get back to work on this and keep us posted. As new developments arise, I'm sure the community will want to hear about this. And we're very happy to hear the brother who went through this is okay, all things considered, and that he was brave enough to continue to fight for justice in this case. So thank you so much, Jacob, and inshallah, we'll be in touch. Thank you for joining us.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. All right, I'll now turn over to Faizan to introduce our next segment, which we previewed for you all a bit earlier.
As everybody knows, tomorrow is going to be the 19th anniversary of the September 11 terrorist attacks, in which 3,000 people lost their lives on the planes, in the towers, and so on and so forth. It is a day of memory. It's a day of sorrow. It's a day of remembrance of not only the attacks, but also what followed afterwards, which is the wars in the Middle East, the invasion of Iraq, and things of this nature. However, the way that September 11th is taught in public schools is also something that we need to talk about and discuss, because right now what we have to realize as a community is that everybody who's in pre-K to 12th grade, none of those students were alive during September 11th. While for Edward, myself, and really much of the adult population, we lived through September 11th. But now for these younger populations, they are only learning about September 11th oftentimes through the public education system, which of course can be taught in a way that isolates and really can exclude and isolate members of the Muslim community or those who are Arabs or things of that nature. Today, we're going to talk more about that specific topic and some ideas and strategies that can be utilized in order to better educate, for schools to use in order to better educate their students and their populations. With that, we have a guest coming all the way from California who's going to be speaking with us about that as well. And Edward, do you want to introduce our next guest?
Yes, sure. So, inshallah, we're going to bring on Sister Diane, who is a member of the organization September 11th Families for Peaceful Tomorrow, which is an organization founded in the wake of 9/11 that focused on making sure that the United States pursued a proper, just, and humanitarian role in the world, not a destructive role in the world. So they opposed the Iraq War and other issues and acts of violence that were committed in the years after 9/11. And they also obviously served as an opportunity for people impacted by 9/11, the victims and their families, to come together and pursue positive change in our country and around the world. So we'll bring her on. And we're also going to bring on Brother Amr Shabeik, who is the managing civil rights attorney with CARE Los Angeles, which has done a lot of work with this issue of students in the schools suffering bullying, especially on the anniversary of 9/11. So let's bring them both on and welcome them both. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Amr. I see you there. How are you?
Wa alaikum salam. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for having us. And we also see Reverend Diane Hutter. Hello, Diane. How are you?
Very well, thank you. I'm delighted to be here with you.
Thank you so much. We're very happy to have you with us to discuss this topic. Amr, let's start with you just to kind of set the stage. So as we noted, tomorrow is the anniversary of 9/11, and there will be memorial services all around the country, remembrances of the victims, and yes, schools, many public schools around the country will either hold memorials or do lesson plans to educate young kids, young students about 9/11. And many of these students were not alive when 9/11 happened or were too young to even notice or know about the attack. What issues have arisen in California for Muslim kids and for other kids in schools when it comes to teaching lessons about 9/11? What has been going wrong on the anniversary of 9/11 when this subject is taught?
Sure. So we deal with bullying cases throughout the school year. And then every year around the anniversary of 9/11, we get an influx of call from concerned parents from the community who are letting us know of some incident that their student dealt with while the discussions of 9/11 were taking place. So frequently, unfortunately, those complaints come that it was an educator or a teacher or an administrator who made these comments, right? So while when it comes from another student, we obviously have to deal with that and address it, but we definitely have to hold our educators to a higher level than, other students or other, children who are still kind of learning and understanding their place in the world. So unfortunately, we do get complaints of educators who make statements. Last year, we got a complaint regarding an educator who made a statement that, explicitly stated, terrorists are Muslims and essentially come from the Middle East, right? That's clearly problematic, explicitly, Islamophobic and racist. We've also had statements where, teachers may try to be more nuanced, but in a sense, they are still playing into, a clash of civilizations narrative or a discussion that seems to imply that, Muslims are sort of this other and they don't really fit into the American narrative, the story of who Americans are, because their belief system is so incompatible as evidenced by the tragic events of 9/11. So those are some of the complaints that we get. And unfortunately, we do see a spike of these kind of complaints around this time of year. And of course, when educators are making these type of statements, it gives leeway to students, other students, non-Muslim students, to maybe bully Muslim students or to create an environment where Islamophobia can be tolerated and expressed openly. So that's kind of some of the stuff that we deal with when it comes to the anniversary of 9/11.
Gotcha. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, I saw this myself back in the state of Georgia. We had an incident where a teacher was using a lesson plan about Islam downloaded from a website called A Billion Bibles, which is an evangelical anti-Muslim website. And this is a public school, and apparently she did not recognize that anyone would have an issue with this, and this is illegal and completely inappropriate. And in that case, the school apologized and addressed the issue. But, it's just remarkable that even happened, and it's not unique. I think every year, many care chapters get complaints about this kind of thing happening in the school system. Faizan, have you dealt with this sort of thing, either in Missouri or Dallas, any issues related to lessons about Islam in particular on 9/11?
Well, yeah, actually, let me bring in some interesting information for the audience. In the United States, to this day, there is no national guideline that states are required to follow when teaching about September 11th in any school district in the country. So every school district and every teacher really has a lot of freedom and leeway in determining how September 11th and the aftermath that are brought are taught. In fact, when there was a study done by the Times, they found that 71% of all the information used to teach about September 11th that teachers use comes from the internet, comes from websites. Only 33% of the information that's taught in public education actually comes from a specific curricula produced by nonprofits and educational organizations. And about 23% of that is actually from textbook. Of that 33%, about 23% from actual textbooks. So what we're seeing happening around the nation is we're seeing a lot of leeway, a lot of freedom that schools, school districts, individual teachers have and how they want to teach it. And of course, because of that, a lot of the biases that teachers have innate, because again, every adult was alive on September 11th, while every single student who goes to pre-K to 12th grade school was not alive on September 11th. So the internal biases and that lack of structure is then presented in the classroom. And I think that is also why we see similar situations that Amir was talking about. We've also seen in Dallas where teachers will, again, talk about September 11th, whether they're well-meaning or maybe not as well-meaning, where they just don't really have the language to talk about this very sensitive, this very timely manner. And because of that, we continuously see students that are unfortunately isolated and victimized because of that.
Yeah, it's a real problem. I mean, imagine you're a Muslim student. Your name is, Muhammad. You're 10 years old, and your teacher plays a video, graphic footage of September 11th, and she claims this is a religious attack by Muslims, and she claims Muslims celebrated 9/11 afterwards around the world, and all this other Islamophobic stuff. It's bad enough if one of your classmates says that or you read it online, but when your teacher, a person of authority, delivers that kind of false information, that not only puts you at risk of bullying, but it also, I dare say, can mess with your own personal psyche as a young kid. And I think another thing to note is that I think I suspect something that is missing in lessons about 9/11 are what happened after 9/11, right? The overreaches that our government engaged in, the things that went so wrong, from the Iraq War to Guantanamo Bay to torture. And just like when we talk about Pearl Harbor and World War II, we've got to talk about Japanese internment. We should also, when talking about 9/11, talking about what happened afterwards, what has happened over the past 20 years. So with that, Reverend Hutter, I want to bring you in. I know your organization. Can you just tell us a bit about your organization, what they do? And also, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think our educational system is sufficiently discussing with students what happened after 9/11, what went wrong, and how our country addressed the issue of terrorism over the past 20 years?
No, I don't think we're addressing it well at all. One of the things that Peaceful Tomorrows, which is kind of our shortened name, September 11th, Families for Peaceful Tomorrows, is about is education and trying to move the country, move the international community from using the events of September 11th as a way of turning towards peace within the world and healing and getting the truth out. We're great supporters of, maybe supporters isn't the right word, but we are definitely standing as witnesses at the Guantanamo hearings. We generally have someone there for each hearing. We have, I don't want to get off too much on just talking about Peaceful Tomorrows, but we do have excellent speakers that are members of Peaceful Tomorrows who will go into schools, who will talk to community organizations.
That's wonderful work. I mean,
yeah. Because the truth is not out there. There's so much fear and hatred and miseducation.
Yeah, absolutely. And the strange thing, Reverend Hunter, you may know this, is that, in the months after 9/11, obviously there was a huge spike in hate crimes against Muslims and people perceived to be Muslim. And unfavorability ratings of Muslims and Islam actually didn't drastically increase right after 9/11. It took another 10 years for that to happen. And that's largely because of people harnessing bigotry years after the incident to reignite anti-Muslim fear. We've seen that in our politics. We saw it in the Ground Zero Mosque debate 10 years ago. We've seen it in the spread of anti-Muslim hate groups. And we've also seen that in some cases, teachers will end up either accidentally or intentionally using educational materials produced by anti-Muslim hate groups in school settings. We're dealing with that in a college in Arizona right now, and I'm pretty confident it's also happened in grade schools. And so I'm very happy to hear that Peaceful Tomorrows is willing to and has been going into schools to educate people about everything related to 9/11, not just the horrific attacks themselves, but what happened afterwards and what has gone wrong and what we as the next generation can do to help change things for the better. Amr, let me bring it back to you. How do we address this? What are the solutions to the specific problem of teaching going wrong on 9/11 and in general with the issue of anti-Muslim school curriculum?
Sure. So I think part of what Care and Care California are doing right now is we're trying to get ahead of the issue, right? So we've reached out to the different districts in our respective geographic regions. We've sent them a letter kind of outlining, the problematic issues that we faced in the past and sort of offered suggestions and resources for ways to address this moving forward. So whether that is, us coming in for a training with educators or us providing resources to the district that they can provide to their teachers, getting in front of these issues before they occur. So, we're not always, on the back end of receiving these complaints, but hopefully we can address them as before they even occur. So some of the suggestions that we provided is, just to be aware of teachers' biases, for them to recognize any biases they may harbor, to be sensitive of, religious diversity, and to be sensitive of the ways that discussing the anniversary of 9/11 can really have a deep negative impact on young Muslim students if it's not addressed in a way that, makes it clear the distinction between, terrorism and the religion, and that obviously terrorism has no religion. Also further providing context to the acts of 9/11, that there have been other incidences of terrorism in American history, and they have not been, conducted by people claiming to be doing so in the name of Islam. So mentioning things like the Tulsa race massacres of 1921, and those were committed by white supremacists, the Oklahoma City bombing, things like that, just to provide context of the situation and to make students understand that what happened on 9/11 was not something unique or inherent to Muslims. It's, and unfortunately a human phenomenon of people who try to advance a specific religious or political belief, and they do so through terroristic actions. So getting ahead of that and providing these resources and kind of tips for educators to deal with these students and do so in a way that does not marginalize them further, I think is an important first step. And we've also offered, an open line of communication with the school districts, that if they would like to set up these trainings, they can reach out to us. We can provide those trainings, or reach out to other organizations that would be helpful in providing those trainings. So that's what we're hoping to start this year and continue to implement year after year until, inshallah, one day in the future, we're no longer dealing with this issue.
Inshallah. Yeah. Go ahead, Faisal.
Amr, you also released a bullying report as well. I remember that's something that you use in order to really educate schools about the adverse impacts of when teachers are not trained or have this type of sensitivity while they're teaching. Could you talk more about that?
Yeah, definitely. So CARE California, across the state, we conduct a bullying report every 2 years. So our most recent one was published at the end of last year, I believe around October. And what we do is we survey K through 12 students across the state, and we get their experiences and survey them on their experiences in school, whether they've dealt with Islamophobic comments, where those Islamophobic comments are coming from. And we take that information and then we do send that report out to the school districts across the state, and provide suggestions as well to how to address these issues. And one of the troubling findings of the report was that nearly 30% of the students reported that school staff themselves had made offensive comments about Islam or Muslims. So unfortunately, these Islamophobic comments are not just coming from students, but they're coming from educators and people in positions of authority that can create environments where Islamophobia and racism and different hateful actions and statements can thrive, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's very important work. And I think that hopefully other CARE chapters and other organizations around the country, including houses of worship, can look to what you all are doing. And CARE LA is a good example of what we can be doing across the country to be proactive about this issue, not just waiting to get the phone calls on September 12th about all the things that went wrong, but trying to preemptively help the teachers to make sure that they are teaching accurate lesson plans that are free from bigotry. Diane, we're about out of time, and I want to close with you. Obviously, as a member of September 11th Families for Peaceful Tomorrows, you lost a loved one. Can you tell us about your personal story briefly so we can remember this, your family, as we approach the anniversary of 9/11?
Thank you so much for that. Yes, we lost my brother, my baby brother. He was on the 94th floor of the North Tower, and my dad was still alive at the time, and it was, I can't even find words to tell you how traumatic it was for us as a family, and also the difficulty as a family in dealing with our personal grief when the nation as a whole was finding ways to deal with its grief and not in the best ways. I remember that my father had neighbors that said things to him like how happy they were, glad that the troops were going in and so forth, and he just shook his head and said, I don't want any other family to have to suffer what we have, and no matter who, no matter what, that shouldn't be. And that has stayed with me. And of course, every year we deal as a family with and individually with the celebrations going on around the country. Not the celebrations, but the commemorations.
The commemorations, yeah.
Memorials, yeah. Bad choice of words. The best way that we can. my brother, my surviving brother, doesn't turn on the TV purposely. I always go to the beach early in the morning if I can, and because that was my brother's favorite place, my baby brother Billy. So if you would remember Billy Peterson when tomorrow comes around, I would appreciate it.
Billy Peterson, one of the almost 3,000 men, women, and children who lost their lives on 9/11. Diane, we thank you for sharing that recollection with us. May God comfort and guide your family. And we thank you so much, not only for the work that you have done, but for setting a good example for all of us, Muslim and non-Muslim, and all backgrounds, about how to deal with grief and how to channel grief into something positive to try to impact the world in a positive way, even in the most difficult of circumstances. And we say the same to all members of your organization, September 11th Families for Peaceful Tomorrows. Our hearts and thoughts are with you, Diane. And we will definitely, God willing, remember your brother, Billy Peterson, on September 11th, along with the other victims of the attack, inshallah, God willing.
Inshallah.
And thank you for CARE and the work that they do. I felt blessed to be able to do some work with them and be supportive in the Muslim community in Miami when I lived there.
That's awesome. That's wonderful, and we appreciate it as well. Thank you so much, Diane. And with that, on that note, I think we'll close the program for today. I want to thank everyone for joining, especially Reverend Hutter and Attorney Shabaik of CARE Los Angeles, my co-host Faizan of CARE Dallas Fort Worth. Thank you all for joining today's episode of CARE on Air, the Muslim Action Hour. We hope that, inshallah, God willing, the program and the information we shared today will be positive for our communities, our neighbors, and our students and our teachers all around the country who tuned in today, or who may watch the program later. And again, if you want to learn more about Diane's organization, Peaceful Tomorrows, September 11th Families for Peaceful Tomorrows, I assume if you Google them, you'll find the contact information.
Right up, just Peaceful Tomorrows.
Peaceful Tomorrows.
Yes.
There you go, inshallah. All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Faizan, Amr, Reverend Hutter, hope you all have a great and safe day, inshallah. Please stay safe and hug your families. And to all of you watching, thank you so much for joining us. Inshallah, we will see you later this week on Thursday for the next episode of CARE on Air, the Muslim Action Hour. Again, it's Tuesday and Thursday, 3 o'clock, inshallah. If you have a topic you want us to address, feel free to let us know so we can take a look at that issue and consider bringing on guests to address it. Faizan, why don't you close us out, inshallah?
Again, thank you all for watching and being here today. I'll close us off with a dua or a prayer. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Rahmanir rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghayril maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Amin. Assalamu alaikum. A prophetic reading of peace.
Jazakallah khair.